And Kate.
Yay.
And the show. So just to let you know, I saw the show in Edinburgh, so I'm familiar with the show. But just a hands up, is everybody here brand new to the show?
Yeah.
A few people have seen it before. Amazing. So tell us about it. When did you first come up with the idea? And how did it come up?
It came, well, originally it was going to be a one-woman show. Then that was about 2014, between 14 and 16, that I'd been thinking, I want to do something, And then during that time, there were a lot of one-woman shows about eating disorders, and they're all very good. So I didn't really need to add anything to it. And then we were talking one day, and you said something, it wasn't this sort of on the nose, but it was something like, well, how do you think I felt? And I was like, oh, well, why don't you tell me? And then that's kind of how it happened. And then I kind of got you on board. I mean, a lot of it was by me, and then you would just sort of come in and do. There was about sort of like 2 weeks before we did the first ever show. Kate was like, oh, I get it now. I was like, when did it not make sense? Like, it was just all the little bits put.
I just came in for evenings because I was in first year, so I just jump over to Alex and rehearse like one night a week. So I had no idea like what the whole thing was together. And she was like, "It's all right, I've got it planned."
But for you, Kate, when she first approached you, were you anxious or cautious? Because obviously you're protective of her.
I don't know. It was like when she asked that she had this idea. And because it was for her masters, I was like, well, I can't say no, because what's she going to do? But I'm glad I did it, and that's the thanks. There you go.
Did you have any reservations? Did you think it was a good or bad idea?
I think it was a good idea, but I genuinely think the thought went through my head of like, why would anyone care what I had to say or what I felt about it? Because there were these shows, the women shows about eating disorders from the sufferers, and I think I was in the headspace of like, well, that's what you want to know about, but actually Alex's point of view of kind of saying, no, it's about the other people around it, I was like, oh, that's a good idea, well done.
Very thoughtful like that.
Did you always intend it to be humorous and comedy? There's a lot of that comes through.
I think so. I think because, I mean, there's cases in the show, it was how we dealt with it at home, or my dad dealt with it a lot with humour, and so it was that. And it is, you always hear people saying, oh, you've got to laugh, and you can't ignore it. Like, it's there, and it's like the elephant in the room comes up a lot. And so I think it would have been false for us to not let some of that bleed in, because that is what it was for us. It wasn't, laugh a minute, but I think, it's great, recommend it to everyone. But yeah, it was like, I think so.
And when you were devising it, did you think what you wanted the message to be, what you wanted audiences to go away with?
Yeah, it's funny, I think this is where it's obviously Kate mentioned, like the first iteration of it was made of my masters, so constantly it's, but why are you doing that, why are you saying that? And so we had that time, which I'm now really thankful for. At the time we're like, oh, I just want to make a show and like eat cake on stage, and so it was, but I'm glad we did, because it did make me think more about it and just keep aware of it when we did manage to break away from that, and when we could just sort of do whatever we wanted. And I think the thing that came up the most was the effect of any mental illness, not just eating disorders, on the family and those around the sufferer's a weird word, but the person going through it. Because I don't think they get a look in. I don't think people realise the mental strain that puts on the people that are around the person with the mental illness. And it's huge.
And how has it affected you both now doing the show?
It's funny. It's like, no, it's strange. I feel like we're a lot more honest with each other about things. Like, we spent a month in Edinburgh just like in each other's pockets, and you have to talk about stuff for the show, and you're like crossing that with like stuff that happened to you that day, and it all kind of bleeds into one. So you can't. It's a bit weird, when someone says, "Oh, you leave the outside stuff outside and then you go on stage." It's like you really can't, and it's just like it's because you're so involved.
Yeah. Good thing on our relationship then, and I think just an awareness of people. Just things like, I think it's probably the audiences that have affected us the most in a lovely way. I mean, the people, especially Edinburgh, where you are doing it back to back every day. And we said at the end of our shows, you know, we'll be in the bar afterwards if anybody wants to chat, because grown-ups had told us to say that. But actually, it was hard, because then, I mean, I remember we had a lady speak to us who was just lovely, but her 17-year-old daughter was currently in the throes of it. And then you've got that thing of thinking, well, I'm not qualified to, I can't tell you it's all going to be okay, because it might not be. And so I think just that awareness of, well, it sounds super cheesy, but, you know, you're not alone. And really feeling it for the first time, you know, and that there are so many people that mental illness affects, and you know, this one, not in particular, but, you know, so hugely.
Amazing. Does anybody have any questions at this point? No, okay, we'll carry on.
Alex, everything I've read about eating disorders suggests that it sometimes, or most times, evolves as a result of some sort of trauma. And I realise that this is a difficult question to ask. But was that the case for you?
Maybe, but this is the thing. I don't know. I mean, it's been there since. I don't. There's not a day that I remember it happening, but it has been there a lot longer. So I was quite a rare case, because I wasn't officially diagnosed till I was 19.
Okay.
And it's actually usually is in people quite a bit younger than that. But there are a few things. It's probably it doesn't, you know, it's in one of the monologues that you didn't see today. Spoiler, sorry, yeah. There's the monologue Kate does, and I never know if that's clear or not, but it's a new one every show, and so it doesn't feel weird to kind of say it, but I was doing things that were, that I think if I was 7 when I was doing, you know, and I only know that because I remember the house I was, you know, doing things in, you know, that and we didn't move until I was 9. So there were behavioural things there. So possibly, but whether it was so young, I don't remember it. But then you think, surely my parents would remember something traumatic. So I don't know. But yeah, you're right. A lot of the time, it can come from like a.
But then you did mention you feel like you're statistic, that you were just a kind of anomaly in the system. You obviously both had the same upbringing.
Yeah.
So there was nothing to trigger or affect either you differently.
Yeah.
It's just
there.
It just happens.
Yeah. And it's when it comes out, if it comes out at all, you know, if it kind of.
How it manifests.
Yeah, that's the word. Yeah.
And do you believe that within that, so it's possibly a genetic thing?
Yeah. I mean, you hear things like that, don't you? You hear people say that, I mean, I don't know that we've got anybody in our family. Okay, I do, but I don't, you know. And then like, how much does this mean? Yeah. Yeah, like I know that there is a history of mental illness in our family, and so you do wonder, yeah, but I don't know. Yeah.
And how are your parents? Have they been to see the show?
Yeah. Mum comes all the time.
I loves it.
She's like, come on, make me cry again. Yes, Mum's seen it a lot. Dad's seen it twice. Yeah. We've done it quite a lot now. So that's.
You obviously talked about how it opened communication between yourself.
Yeah.
Did it help with your communication between your father and your mum and you?
I suppose so. I suppose short term.
Yeah, I mean, Mum. I remember the first one. Mum said, "We are there was stuff that she found out that she didn't know before, and so that shocked her quite a bit. And I think even after the shows, we usually end up going home together anyway. So we talk about it, and still, I wonder if she still talks to you about it. Like, oh, did that happen? What did she say then? And no, she doesn't. Great, you should talk about it. No, but I feel like it does, and our dad's kind of always just been. He's just not a very emotional man, so he doesn't really talk about it. Which is fine. Like that's his way of dealing with it. Like he was the pint of milk and a Mars bar.
Yeah.
Sort her out. Like
yeah.
Yeah.
It's a bit more love in it than that.
Yeah.
But I'll come back when she's fine. You know. It was
very good at chatting.
I think in the short term certainly, because it is that after each show, you know, you have those conversations, and then but it certainly isn't to the point. I suppose it feels more like now if we did need to talk about it, it would be much easier. and I mean the other thing that, you know, the illness in itself is, it's not like other mental illnesses in that it has a physical manifestation, you know, so it's hard to get out of talking about it because they see it and you can't deny it, whereas there's so many other things, as we all know, that, you know, you couldn't get away with for a long time, not telling anyone, and it that makes it sound like you're doing something wrong getting away with it, but it wasn't easy to hide, so it was, I suppose I was forced into talking about it quite soon anyway. Yeah.
And has there been any time during the Edinburgh run in particular where it was too hard to go on stage, or?
There were days where I probably would have rather not gone on stage. Yeah, and I think part of that is Edinburgh's something else anyway. You know, I think when it's so intense, isn't it? And it's amazing, and you always know it's going to be, but it's weird because we all go back and do it again anyway, like weird people. But they did add an extra layer, but never to the point, you know, I don't think there was ever a day where I thought, I don't think we should do this. I remember when we did the first ever version of it, and Kate's monologue, she got very teary, and it was great.
I've never seen
the
it.
audience were in bits, but I remember having it off with my Mars bar at the back, thinking, I don't know if I should pull this. Like, on stage thinking, is this too much? I don't know. And we didn't, it was great. But it's but other than that, I don't think there's ever been a day where I thought, I don't think this is a good idea. And there was always something, whether it was, you know, a really friendly audience or, you know, a nice person afterwards that made you think, no, this is fine, we'll do it again. Yeah.
Amazing. Well, we're going to have to wrap it up there because there's another show coming in.
Yes.
Cool. One quick question.
Sorry. I mean, I've seen this twice now. I love you two speech, you know that. It's such a serious subject.
Yeah.
The eating disorder. Mental health as a whole is huge nationally.
Yeah.
You do this so well. The way you've put it together, the way you play with people's emotions, you build it up, it's funny, it's hilarious. Bang, it's tragic. It's fantastic. Have you considered, or are you planning, I hope you are, to take this into secondary schools? Because I think the message that this would give would be fantastic.
Yeah, we and ahh about it all the time.
Do it.
Yeah, we were. Yeah, I think it's just a thing of, I know what I was like when I was in secondary school, and I have a thick skin, but I don't know how thick it is. And there are days we think, oh, it's like, you know, Edinburgh every day. I think you've got to be. Yeah, but I think there's ways around it. I think we could totally do a version. Obviously, there's workshops, and because it's also about then talking to them about it afterwards, rather than just like, here's a show we made. Okay, bye. So yeah, I think there'd be that to it.
Okay, well, thank you all very, very much for staying, and thank you for
you so
Alex
much.
and Kate.
Thank you.